Want to create dynamic animations that react to your scene's lighting? Today, we're using Blender's geometry nodes to make this interactive proximity effect, perfect for product commercials and motion graphics. Here are a few more examples where I'm using the same geometry nodes setup. Alright, let's dive in and build this from scratch. We'll be recreating the exact setup from the first example you saw in the intro. Alright, let's get a clean slate. Press A to select everything in your scene and hit Delete. Press Shift plus A and add a cube. Now, head over to the Geometry Nodes tab and click New. Add a grid node and connect it to the group output. Next, drop in an instance on Points node. This is what we'll use to populate our grid with objects. Now, add the object you want to instance. I'm using a free Ken model from BlenderKit. Just drag it into your node tree and connect it to the instance input. Connect the geometry output of your object to the instance input. Now you'll see your Ken model populating every point on the grid. Now, adjust the grid size and vertex count to fit your scene. I'm going for a high density so the cans sit compact and close together. Grid size to 6 by 6 with 8 vertices on each axis. Then, set the scale of your can instance to 0.9 so they sit perfectly edge to edge. Press Shift plus A and add a UV sphere. Scale it down to your liking, then drag it into the Geometry Node editor. Make sure to change the Object Info node to Relative. Now, add a Vector Math node and switch the operation from Add to Distance. This will calculate the space between our sphere and each instance. Connect the location of your UV sphere to the top vector input. Then, add a Position node and connect it to the bottom socket. Now, add a Map Range node and connect the distance output to the value input. Now, add a Float Curve node. Connect the result of your map range into the value input of the curve. Connect the value from your float curve to the scale input of your instances. End the map range, keep from min at 0, but change from max from 6.8 to 0.6. This tightens the influence area around your sphere. Go to the float curve and shape the line into an S-curve. This smoothens the transition, giving the scaling effect a more natural, organic feel. I'll be fine-tuning these values and the curve as we go. This varies depending on your object and the style you're after, so don't feel like you have to copy my numbers exactly. Adjust them until they feel right for your scene. Here are my final values and the curve shape. I also suggest locking the X and Z axes of your sphere. Keeping it on a single axis makes the effect much easier to control and prevents it from roaming around the scene. As you can see, our effect is working perfectly. Now let's move to the next step, giving our UV sphere that high-energy glowing look to make it stand out as the driver of the effect. I'm not going to record my lighting setup step by step since this tutorial is focused on geometry nodes, not lighting. I'll speed through this part now to save you some time while I get the scene looking right.